Hey everyone, I'm Diana Davison, advocate for the falsely accused and wrongfully convicted. Now I know, probably like me, most of you have become sick to death of these massive MeToo allegations that have been taking place online since October of 2017 when that movement started.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!
But I want to talk today because we're going on 3 years now. You'd think that journalists would be getting better at doing this when they actually report on these allegations. But in this case, it's got to be the worst example I've seen of a lack of due diligence in terms of the journalist fact checking thing. So I'm going to show you bits of this article, and I'll give you a link to it so you can go check it out. And I've been actually contacting a few people. The author of the article, I haven't contacted the editors yet, but I asked a bunch of questions, requests for comment. I have not heard back from the author. I also requested some information and made an inquiry with a lawyer that they're quoting in here. So I'll explain what's going on. Here we go. The article is called York University Facing Criticism for Not Doing Enough to Help Victims of Sexual Assault. And this is published on a site called BlogTO.com, which is essentially a tabloid based in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. The article claims thousands of people are calling for the expulsion of a York University student after more than 50 women came forward with sexual assault allegations. Well, it's true that there is a petition, but I had to question over 50 women because online, where it's being posted on Twitter, the main complainant is posting allegations, some of them anonymous, and there's only actually, from my count at the time of writing this email to the author, there were only actually 18 different complainants that I could identify that had been posted. Now, in case you think that 18 accusers is still an awfully large number, well, I want you to keep in mind that some of the accusations involve only getting a high five from this individual as the most physical contact that occurred, and then the problem was that he went around telling people that they had had sex together. So that apparently counts as a sexual assault allegation. The article also said, all acts committed by the accused bear a fault in consent, said Martina Carana, an international lawyer based in Europe representing the 50-plus women who came forward. Well, I've already covered the fact that 50 women did not actually come forward. Some of them are anonymous, and only 18 of them actually are visible. But the more importantly, this international lawyer, she is based in Malta. That's where she got her degree, and she has apparently worked with the UN. But as far as I can tell, she's not licensed to practice law in Canada, and that's where these alleged incidents took place. So I've actually done I searched for her on the Law Society for Ontario. She's not listed. And I've put in an inquiry to find out if she's been accredited as an international lawyer to practice in Canada. And it'll probably take about a week to hear back. But I also emailed the lawyer herself, and she has not responded to my inquiry or request for comment. And I highly suspect that she is not permitted to practice law in Canada. So it's very concerning that this international lawyer is claiming not just to represent a Canadian, but over 50. And the reason why I'm pretty sure she can't practice law in Canada is because some of the comments that she makes in this, that are attributed to her, are pretty bizarre. We'll start with this. Currently, no criminal charges have been brought against the accused, although Carana told BlogTO that pressing criminal and civil charges is still a possibility. So here's a lawyer talking about pressing criminal and civil charges. That's the first red flag. Now, apparently, the girls are still processing their trauma and coming to terms with what has happened to them, and hence are still considering instituting legal proceedings. There is definitely scope for a class action suit. Given the large number of survivors, a public inquiry is also another possible course of action, she said. The she in this case is this international lawyer, Caruana, and I've got a few problems with this. One, class action lawsuits are something really particular, and you have to be considered a class. What we're looking at here, if they wanted to, as a group, try to make some sort of a civil claim, they would have independent torts against the individual. Like, generally, when you look at class action suits, it's a class of people who have a problem with a corporation or with a government entity, something a little bit bigger than an individual who's actually just a foreign student. So the idea that she would successfully in any way be able to create a class action lawsuit against a foreign student who's studying in Canada is beyond sketchy. I'm going to put it that way. It's beyond sketchy. But even weirder is this idea that there'd be a public inquiry. So again, we're not looking at a situation where there's an entity. Of course, York University is involved, but a public inquiry into an individual who's alleged to have committed a tort against a number of other people. A public inquiry into that would be generally a police investigation. So these are some of the reasons why I'm very concerned that this international lawyer, or any other lawyer who's not Canadian, is not only purporting to represent Canadian citizens, but is actually spouting off a bunch of nonsense, actual nonsense, about potential legal actions that she's going to take on behalf of her clients who, you know, I'm assuming that they think they've retained her. I'm not sure what form that takes. And because there actually aren't, from what I can tell, over 50 accusers, I'm really surprised that she's saying she represents over 50 of them, because I really seriously doubt that she's talked to more than a handful. The article goes on to say, in addition to all of this crime and negligence of the university, that would be York in this case, the majority of the survivors are Pakistani. The assailant is also Pakistani, but most of the crimes happened in Canada. So even when York brushes off the sexual violence incidents, they're also not defending minorities the way they should be, added Caruana. So I want to point something out here, that she's acknowledging, this is again the lawyer that I'm quoting, she's acknowledging that both the accused and the alleged victims are all within the same nationality or race. And she's saying that for some reason there has to be some sort of extra due diligence in protecting minorities. And it may seem stunning and brave, but really what she's asking for is for minorities to be policed in some sort of extraordinary fashion. This, is the kind of thing that happens with carding. This is one of the things that minority groups are really fighting against. I have no idea how she thinks that minorities should be getting extra protection without them being under special policing protection or special policing enforcement. And, that's something that people who are social justice warriors, they really need to be careful about the kinds of recommendations they make and the types of things that they advocate for, because we're in such a crazy world. Sometimes these things actually end up being put in place and they end up being worse than the situation was before. And again, this is coming from an international lawyer who works with the UN. Additionally, it said, these girls come from across the world to study, and then they're violated on foreign ground where they may have little to no knowledge of the law. And some of the survivors are minors. It's shocking. I would expect the university to take some responsibility and protect these minorities on campus. All right, so I'm going to just kind of finish with that point, but I actually find the entire article to be quite egregious, along with all of the quotes from this lawyer who's proposing to practice in Canada. But I just want to point out with that last bit that she's trying to say that minors, that girls, not women, but minors were being assaulted on York University campus by this individual. So my question there is, how do they, I guess the author and the person who's saying this, how do they propose that a minor was actually attending York University? Because, universities, I mean, if you're a genius, you can end up being there at 16 or something, but clearly there were no minors attending York University, for which York is being asked to take all sorts of actions. And, I really hope that this nonsense stops. that the universities, they have enough to deal with. In this case, York is being asked to police the activities, not just of their students, when they're engaging with other students on campus. They're being asked by these particular individuals, the complainant, the lawyer, potentially the journalist here. York is being told that they should be policing their students even when they're engaging with people off campus who are not other university students. That is obviously going too far. That's basically is asking York to be a secondary police department for people who don't actually feel like going to the police. And then, of course, the reason why they're demanding this type of thing from universities is because they can then demand the universities do investigations that favor complainants and don't actually do proper investigations and don't employ proper due process when they have their tribunals. I've got other videos on why you should never participate in a tribunal unless they show that they're actually willing to do basic things like inform you in advance as to the contents of the complaint against you. So I came across this article and it was just so stunning. I thought I'd do a video to explain, to show you what's in it, and also to let you know that I have sent emails off to the journalist and the lawyer involved in this. I think it's been about 3 days. By the time this goes online, probably 4 days. And I don't expect I'm going to hear back. But I have also done an inquiry into into the board that does accredit international lawyers. And I hope that she's actually in the process of at least trying to become accredited. But it's pretty bad when you're actually being retained by people in a country where you're not licensed to practice law. So we'll see what happens with that. And for now...
So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, "I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!"